Yeah. 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 Chrome hearts at the Caesar's Palace. I was a sneaker savage, undefeated baggage. Shea bar, you can be established. A 230s, that's 69s. You can eat a salad while you feed a phallus.
And it's Monday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm here with my brother Kenny T for another edition of Mano a Mano. What's good, Kenny?
Always good, brother. You know, having a great day. Can't complain. Mad hard work. Great fights this weekend. Just released my EP. Feeling good, man. We ready to go.
That's what's up. A big week for music in the world of KT, and a big week in boxing for those of you who love boxing like we do. So we're going to get right into it. Very humid day here in New York City. We're still in May, but it feels like we're approaching summertime. So I had to have the fan on over here. I finished a workout that got the sweat going, and then the sweat even started more because of the humid conditions here in uptown New York City. But let's get back to the boxing. So Saturday, Kenny, there was a few cards. I don't know if you were able to catch the Tony Yoka fight against Martin Bakole. Were you able to see that one? All right.
Nah, man. I barely caught Jaron Ennis and I saw the full Charlo fight, but shit, I barely caught Jaron Ennis. I caught it like right at the end.
All right, so there we go. So first of all, I just want to get started with Tony Yoka, 2016 Olympic gold medalist out of France, beat Joe Joyce in the final in Rio. It was considered slightly controversial, maybe more than slightly if you're in the UK. Tony Yoka linked up with Virgil Hunter. All right, he's one of Virgil Hunter's new students / athletes, along with Joshua Boazzi out of the UK. And Tony Yoka got comprehensively beat in Paris, Kenny, by Martin Bakole. Martin Bakole outweighed him, but he didn't look like he was in the greatest shape. He kind of almost looked like a Dillian White kind of fighter, but he did his thing. I mean, he beat up Tony Yoka pretty badly, pretty convincingly. So that was the start of my day when it came to boxing on Saturday. And before we get into the Showtime card, Kenny, I got to ask you a question. I got to ask KT, the real KO Kenny, a question. Okay? Are you ready to knock out the ideas you had about Zurdo Ramírez? Did you see Zurdo on Saturday night?
Nah, I didn't see him either.
Okay, because Zurdo got that fourth round KO, Kenny. He did what he had to do.
Don't matter.
He was defensively sound. His trainer, Julian Chua,
who's he fighting?
He was fighting the number one ranked light heavyweight according to the WBA. That's who he was fighting.
Oh yeah,
that's who he was fighting. Mm-hmm. And he got the fourth round KO. So shout out to Zurdo.
Like the rest of the people on his resume, right? All great fighters.
Shout out to Zurdo, all right, for laying a beat down on Saturday night. It doesn't sound like Kenny's really ready to give Zurdo his respect. Put some respect on his name, Kenny.
It's funny because,
some respect on his name.
You have both Zurdo and Boots on the cover for today's show. Oh, yeah. And both of those guys are on the same level for me. Untested, overrated, comparing them to Canelo and to fucking Errol Spence and Bud. Dudes are smoking some good shit, and I need whatever the fuck it is that they smoking. Don't rate an untested dude against the best. Stop it.
Top 3 fighters right there, Kenny. That's the theme of today. Underrated and avoided right there. You see it right there. Okay? We're going to get into Mr. Charlo in a moment, but look, Zurdo Ramírez is a top 3 light heavyweight. Okay? And we're going to get into Boots Ennis in a second. Is he not a top 3 light heavyweight? I see your eyes bugging out there. Is he not a top 3 light heavyweight, Kenny?
I don't have it ranked right now, so I'm not even going to talk out my ass. I'm not going to
put some respect on his name, Kenny.
I have nothing against Boots or Zurdo. It's just that, look, they look great, but against not real top-level competition. So until they face top-level competition, the arguments of Zurdo beats Canelo annoy me. the arguments of Boots beats Errol Spence and Boots beats Crawford annoys me. Like, let them actually fight somebody, you know? That's it. This boxing thing, I don't do it out of emotions. You know what I'm saying? I be speaking facts. I don't have no dislike towards anybody. They look great. Against who? You know what I'm saying? That's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not hating.
The number one light heavyweight as ranked by the WBA. That's who. That's who. The number one ranked light heavyweight, according to the WBA, just got beat up comprehensively by Zurdo. Julian Chua said, you know what, Zurdo, you just got to hit him with that liver shot real quick, and we're about to go home. And what did he do? He went out there and he hit him to the body, and they went home. They went home. So look, Kenny, shout out to KO Kenny, because Zurdo Ramírez put it all on the table on Saturday night. It was all on the table, much like Kenny T and the new EP.
You already know.
Okay. So shout out to D-Style Boxing right here. All right. Shout out to D-Style Boxing. He says, is Zurdo really 200 plus on fight night? Kept hearing, apparently, yeah, he rehydrated to 204 pounds on Saturday night. He did that. All right. You know, they were Sergio Mora, I should say, was essentially arguing that means that he's struggling to make weight. But he didn't look like he lacked the conditioning on Saturday night, if I'm going to be honest. He looked like he was fit and ready to go. And, you know, shout out to Dominic Boso, you know, formerly the WBA number one ranked light heavyweight out of Germany. Okay. But Kenny, I got to be honest with you, bro. That's now, I believe, 5 straight KOs by your boy Zurdo. Okay, so Thomas Carpensi, he got KO'd. Alfonso Lopez, he got KO'd. Sullivan Barrera, the former amateur standout out of Cuba, he got KO'd. Unieski Gonzalez, and I know you were high on Unieski, Kenny. You're really high on Unieski. He got KO'd. Okay, and most recently, all right, you got to give it up to the number one ranked light heavyweight out of Germany. He goes by the name Dominic Bosel. Well, formally, all right, he got KO'd by Zurdo. So, look, keeping with the theme, all right, keeping with the theme, I got Zurdo right now, top 3 light heavyweight in the world. The only 2 guys that I think are ahead of him, Kenny, to be honest with you, are Better Beeve and Bivol. And I think he gives Bivol a good fight. That's who he's calling out. That's who he's ranked to face. All right. You know, he's now put himself into that mandatory spot, apparently. Right. And that's for Bivol's WBA championship. But I'm going to give you one last chance, Kenny. Are you ready to put some respect on his name before we move on to the next topic?
Oh, definitely not. I'm watching some highlights over here on my other screen real quick. And there ain't nothing to give respect about yet, bro. Being there against the top dogs, it doesn't matter how you're looking. Look at what happened to everyone's number one top dog, Canelo, when he went to 175 against Bivol. Stop playing. It depends who you're fighting. Don't you know? I know you fishing for me to really put Bivol in the headlock, but I'm not gonna do that to him. He just want to fight. I'm gonna let him rock a little bit, but at the end of the day, can't give him too much respect.
Dominic Bosel, put some respect on his name, out of Germany. WBA number one ranked light heavyweight going into the fight, Kenny. Put some respect on his name. Okay, so moving on. Oh, actually, before we move on, are you good with that fight? If Bivol can't take on Canelo? Because according to Boxing Scene, Bivol is quoted as saying that, you know, the Ramírez fight is a good fight, but he wants to add more belts to his collection, and I'm paraphrasing. You agree with Bivol? Should he be belt collecting right now as opposed to taking on number one mandatories?
Oh, I definitely agree that he should be belt collecting. Why take on a number one mandatory, especially a guy who's not proven, a guy who, like I said, is fighting technically nobody's. Like, stop it. We can't do that. We can't give him too much. You know what I'm saying? Can't give him too much props. Can't give him like a trophy. This isn't everybody like gets a trophy participation type of league. You know what I'm saying? Like, can't give a guy a trophy that doesn't deserve it. No, you got to work for your shit out here. And Zurdo, I guess after he gets belts, if he's still the mandatory, then there you go. He got himself a fight. But no, I think he should be looking at Beterbiev and then and Canelo. That's it. Big money fight and big belt fight. That's it. And after that, if Zurdo is still mandatory, then beat his ass then. And I got Bivol on that, hands down.
How do you, okay, interesting. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Shout out to Boxing Scene and the brother Keith Eidick over there. We're going to go down to the light heavyweight rankings, okay, which appear here on my screen. I'm going to zoom in on these real quick. All right. And as you can see, going into that fight, Dominic Bosel was ranked, or Dominic, I should say, sorry, Dominic, was ranked number 1. Gilberto's was 2, and now he's past them. All right. This week, we actually have Joshua Boazzi, all right, the 3rd ranked fighter at 175 with the WBA. He's going to be taking on Craig Richards, the number 7 ranked, and that's actually should be a pretty good fight. I'm looking forward to it. Anyone who hasn't seen the face-off should definitely have a look. But I think Zurdo beats Joe Smith Jr., which is why I have him ranked at number 3. Kenny, what do you think? Joe Smith Jr., Dimitri Bivol, how do you... Not Dimitri Bivol, Joe Smith Jr. and Zurdo Ramírez, how do you rank those guys head-to-head?
Well, it's difficult to try to rank them head-to-head because we ain't never seen Zurdo face anybody of no real threat or danger. We never seen Zurdo face anybody with some real power that throws punches and bunches that can actually hurt him. Zurdo looks like he could potentially be the slightly more well put together fighter, but Joe Smith is no slouch. That is Joe Smith's weight class. He could try coming in at 204 pounds. That may make a difference. Who knows? It may actually fuck him over in the fight. So we're going to see. Right now, I'm going to 100% have to go with Joe Smith Jr., the more experienced guy who's been in there with the champs, who's proven himself, who's actually fought top-tier competition.
Yeah, he did. He fought Bivol. He lost. And then, he also had another gift decision, I think, in his fight in his title fight, because I had his Russian opponent winning that fight personally. I'm talking about Maxim Blasov. I had him winning that fight. I thought he did actually pretty well. So to me, like the 2 times Joe Smith has stepped up, he kind of took L's, one officially, one unofficially. But I understand it. I definitely think it goes without saying that he's top 5 right now at light heavyweight. And I can see people considering Joe Smith the top 3 along with Bivol and Beterbiev, or Beterbiev, sorry. But
just to everybody in the chat, they think you're talking about Bivol Joe Smith, but you're talking about Joe Smith versus Zurdo Ramírez. So everybody gets the point.
Oh yeah, I'm basically ranking Joe Smith versus Gilberto Ramírez. All right, in terms of who's got that number 3 spot. Kenny's giving it to Joe Smith. My vote is for Ramírez. I think it goes without saying that until the 2 guys are beat, Beterbiev and Bivol, those are the 2 guys I have at 1 and 2 in the light heavyweight division. Personally, I got Beterbiev number 1. I got Bivol number 2. I got Ramírez number 3. I think you agree with my top 2, right, Kenny? Your disagreements with my 3rd.
Yeah, that's a fact.
There you go. So, moving on, okay, let's get to the card that was on Showtime. And it took place in a tennis stadium. And before I get into Boots Ennis, and before I discuss what happened in the ring between Charlo and Castaño, I do got to say that for a fight of this magnitude, I felt that the venue wasn't what it should be. Maybe that boils down to Charlo's ability to sell tickets, but this was like a B-class venue for me, and this was a A-plus class level championship fight. It was an undisputed fight, but it was taking place in not in a stadium, well, not a football stadium, not in an NBA size arena. And it took place in a small tennis stadium. I mean, if that tennis stadium was here in New York, it wouldn't be the first or second at the U.S. Open tennis grounds, it would be at best the third, because Billie Jean King Stadium and Arthur Ashe are significantly bigger. So, nice that it was outdoors, nice that Charlo was headlining it, but honestly, as it relates to an undisputed fight of this magnitude, I would have liked to see it on a bigger stage, but I digress. Let's get into
They should have came to New York. MSG, baby. They would have sold that motherfucker out. People know about boxing. They're all about the hype, especially right now that COVID is like a thing of the past kind of in New York. People are out here living life. So trust me. Not trust me, because it's not like I know for a fact, but I believe that it would have definitely sold out if you would have brought it to New York.
Yeah, I mean, if they put that at the Garden or if they put that at the Barclays, I feel that people would have turned up for it for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I mean, it was in a B-level tennis stadium. So, and it wasn't exactly a Grand Slam tennis stadium. It was like the level below it. So whatever. Anyhow, the fights took place. One of those two fights was obviously the fight featuring Jaron Boots Ennis, who was taking on Custio Clayton out of Nova Scotia, Canada. And, I talked about this on the roundtable. I don't really like predicting fights that I'm going to score. I didn't think I had to score this fight because I thought it was one-sided, and it actually ended up being very one-sided. Boots Ennis got rid of Custio Clayton in 2 rounds, and to me, looked like he's making a statement at being, if not the best welterweight in the world, just below it.
Oh my God, you're doing the Zurdo thing. Oh my God,
it's the eye test, Kenny.
Oh,
I know you're not a fan of the eye test, but I mean the dude's passing the eye test, dude.
Oh, he is flying colors.
Zurdo's passing the eye test, and
Zurdo's passing with like a C.
Put some spec on his name.
See, Boots is passing the test with flying colors.
Yeah.
Zurdo's passing it with like C. He's just passing.
I mean, he just bludgeoned and knocked out the #1 ranked light heavyweight according to the WBA. So, I mean, to me, he's doing it. But let's focus on Boots, right? Boots took on an undefeated fighter that a lot of people felt should have been awarded a victory in a fight that was ruled a draw for him. All right. And, Custio Clayton showed up, but there was just levels and gaps in terms of the skill set. And not only that, but the size. I mean, Boots is quite a big welterweight. And, he's not kind of a tall welterweight that lacks punching power. To the contrary, he's a tall welterweight that hits you anywhere and it's night. And in this case, he hit Clayton at the top of the head with a temple shot. And Clayton tried to get up to the best of his abilities, but just wasn't able to do it. So, where do you rank Boots, Kenny, as a welterweight? Because I got him in my top 3.
I feel like top 3 is kind of pushing it.
Okay.
What top level contender has he faced?
Well, my counter,
None. 0.
I agree with that. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have Errol Spence Jr. ranked as their #1 at welterweight. And according to the Ring ratings and the ESPN ratings, I mean, he has yet to defeat a guy ranked in the top 10 in the welterweight division. Yes, he has, according to sanctioning bodies, but according to what we consider the top guys in the sport at welterweight, he hasn't been fighting them. Now,
you really doing this right now?
I'm really doing it right now.
You're really doing this right now.
Go for it. Jump in. So my thing is, if we're going to apply the eye test standard to Terrence Crawford, then why is it unfair to me to apply the eye test standard to Boots Ennis?
Oh, we not applying no eye test standards to Crawford and to Boots Ennis. See, Crawford has proven himself. 135, 140, and coming up from 140 to go to 147 to fight with the bigger guys and to win a belt against Jeff Horn, who is a big-ass 147-pounder. Maybe not the greatest, but he's a huge one. And then he fought Kavaliauskas, and big dude. And Brooks, Kell Brook, another big dude. Like, come on, bro. Stop playing.
The competition the competition of level of competition that Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence have faced are on a whole nother level than what Boots has faced. Boots is passing the eye test, but you can't tell me he's number 3 on this list because he just beat Custio Clayton.
Well, here's what I am saying. We're doing the eye test because Terrence Crawford didn't beat Ugas, who Spence beat. Terrence Crawford, essentially beat a Sean Porter after he was already beat by Kell Brook, after he was already beat by Keith Thurman, and after he was already beat by Errol Spence Jr. So
let me see.
In terms of his run, and I see Tony saying that I'm capping. In terms of his run at welterweight, most of how we're rating him, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, is off of an eye test. He looked great against Kell Brook. He looked great against Sean Porter. He looked great, but
this is the opposition you're mentioning, and then this is the opposition that Boots fights.
Right.
So whether you want to give the opposition that Crawford and Spence are fighting, whether you want to give them their props or not, this is where their level is at. Let me see Boots fight a Sean Porter, and let's see how that turns out. And then maybe we could rank him somewhere where let me see Boots.
Sean Porter doesn't want to fight him.
He probably doesn't. He probably doesn't. And he probably beats Sean Porter. It's just that at the same time, you need to fight someone that has been there. You need to fight someone at that level, someone that knows how to win, someone who's been at the top. You need to fight someone at that level. Don't come knocking out a Custio Clayton in the second round and then thinking that you're going to get a trophy. This is not everybody gets a trophy league, bro.
Well, I mean, Crawford knocked out Amir Khan. He got a trophy. Crawford knocked out
Amir Khan is way better than Custio Clayton.
He got a trophy. He beat Jeff Horn. He got a trophy.
Better than Thomas Delorme.
By the way, I just want to keep it clear. I'm not ranking Boots over Crawford. I'm ranking Crawford over Boots. I'm just saying that the ranking of Crawford at 147 is as well an eye test run. It is, because he hasn't beat the same guys that Errol Spence Jr.'s beat, who I think we can all agree are better opponents than the guys that that Terrence Crawford has beat. I mean, Errol Spence Jr.'s faced a better opposition at welterweight. I don't think that that's really disputable.
Tony Pugilist has a great question. He says Conor Benn. So that leads me to, how do you rank Conor Benn next to Boots? If you ask me, Conor Benn is more accomplished. His opposition is way better than the opposition that Boots is fighting. So I'd rock, although Boots passes the eye test in a way better fashion, in my opinion, than Conor Benn, I'm ranking Conor Benn higher because he's faced a better opposition.
I would say that Sergey Lipinets was a good opponent. I would say that Thomas Delorme was a decent opponent. Custio Clayton was undefeated. They share one common opponent in Chris Van Heerden. Okay. But I don't really rate Conor Benn's opponents better than I rate Boots Ennis. I think they're about the same. Maybe I give Conor Benn the slight edge. But here's the thing. If we look up and down the welterweight division, right? And I'm gonna pull up the boxing scene. Shout out to Boxing Scene again. I love their page, and I love the way it's set up for everybody. All right. Once you get past Errol Spence Jr., right? Once you get past Terrence Crawford, who are you picking on these lists to beat Boots Ennis?
Well, look, I'm not gonna say to beat
That's
Boots
why
Ennis.
he's my top 3. Who do you pick over Boots Ennis from these names?
I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna pick to beat Boots Ennis, because that would be me hating. Who would I like to see Boots Ennis fight that would give him credibility in my eyes? Go beat a Radza Butayev, go beat a Stanionis, go beat a Virgil Ortiz, go beat a Keith Thurman, even go beat Ugas, go beat Danny Garcia, go even beat Mikey Garcia.
Here's my question:
any of these guys?
Will any of those names that you just mentioned be willing to go in there with Boots Ennis for high risk, low reward?
Butayev and Stanionis would.
Well, but I think the Stanionis fight would be good. And guys in the chat, just to be clear, all right, just to be clear, at my welterweight rankings, I got Errol Spence Jr. number 1, I got Terrence Crawford number 2, and I got Boots Ennis number 3. That's my ranking. I'm not out here saying that Boots is better than Crawford. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he's passing the eye test, and I'm going to get to the super chat real quick over here. Super chat from our brother Nando. He says, the Boots KO looked like the phony Selden Tyson KO. Let's calm down about Boots. For once, boxing media typically waving those pom-poms prematurely. I don't think it was a fake KO. I mean, the dude tried to get up, and he was on Bambi/Gazelle legs, yo. You know, he's on those little mosquito legs. You seen the mosquito's legs before, Kenny? I mean, he couldn't stand up straight. And that was all because of the right hand landed by Boots Ennis. All right, so was it a right hand? I'm pretty sure it was a right hand. So, yeah, I mean, people could think I'm capping here. But you know what, Tony? If you got to bet, look, here's what I'm going to do. You know, matter of fact, let me just drop the link. Let me drop the link because if anybody's out here really telling me that they got another name at number 3 than Boots Ennis, I want to hear who it is. Okay, I want to hear who it is. My guess from Tony, if Tony's willing to come on here, is that Tony's going to tell us that it's that young brother, the Dark Destroyer's son, who goes by the name of Connor Ben. That would be my guess. Or maybe he's going to come on here and tell us that it's Stanionis. I don't know.
I put both of those guys ahead of Boots.
Maybe he's going to tell us it's David Avanesian. Maybe he's going to tell us, I don't know, that it's Virgil Ortiz. What about Keith Thurman? All right, what about Keith Thurman, Kenny? Huh?
I rank Keith Thurman above him.
Wow.
I think he'll win against Keith Thurman, but look, okay. You have to understand what I'm saying.
I'm not saying you think he wins against Keith Thurman.
Yeah, but you have to understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
The eye test doesn't mean shit when it comes to stats. You could talk about, yo, I'm great. I'm gonna win this fight. I'm gonna sell whatever until you get in there and you win that fight, and you ain't done shit. The eye test don't tell me nothing. So when I'm talking about ranking them, I'm gonna rank Keith Thurman above him. But who I think wins that fight? If that fight was to happen off of the eye test, I'm going to tell you I think Boots wins that fight. But I still rank Keith Thurman above him because Keith Thurman has accomplished more in his career.
I got it. So translation, you rank Errol Spence Jr. above Terrence Crawford because he's done more at welterweight, right?
Definitely.
All right, but you probably think that Crawford's going to beat Errol Spence Jr.
I got to reanalyze that one after that last win by Spence and that performance.
All right. You don't know, but you know what? Shout out to Big Kenny T for keeping it consistent. Because right there, he just kept it consistent. We got 2 brothers joining us. One's from Los Angeles, the other's from London. I'm going to let them cook on this for a second. Let me go to Sheldon first, and then I'll bring in Tony, a.k.a. the pugilist boy, to see what he's got to say. Shelton Moore, you're up, fam. What are your thoughts on this? Where do you rank Boots at 147, and where do you rank Zurdo at 175?
Can you hear me?
Little fuzzy. Try again.
Got an echo.
Still here. Ask to London, and then it might clear up. What's that?
Yeah, we got an echo for you, Sheldon. So I'm going to remove you. Maybe get a headset if you can and come back, and I'm going to go to Tony and bring you back in. Cool. All right. So, Tony, you're up, fam. You said I was capping. I got the cap. You said I was capping. You said I was capping. So tell me what's good. And
first and foremost, gentlemen, good evening. It's always a pleasure to hear you guys. Your knowledge on the game, superlative. It's great. It's great. I love the banter, as we say here in the UK. But I'm going all in with Kenny Ken today because Kenny's calling you out, and he's absolutely right to do so. Zurdo is not the next coming of the greats. Boots Ennis, I absolutely love.
Put some spec on his name, Tony. That's Zurdo that made it.
On my boy's name. He just
knocked out the WBA #1 ranked fighter at light heavyweight. Put some respect on his name, Tony. Zurdo. Put some respect on his name. Let's go.
Zurdo Ramírez, my guy, is not what you make him out to be. Very good, very good, very well matched, cleverly matched. Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Jerry Cooney in his time. And guess what happened to Cooney when he came across the real deal, Larry Holmes? Yeah. So I'm gonna say it like that. Zurdo, very well matched, does what he needs to do against the opponents that he's supposed to beat. But let's not get this twisted. He hasn't faced a killer once.
Ding that motherfucking bell, goddammit.
Tony, let me get this straight, right? Am I good to guess that you got Joe Smith Jr. ahead of him?
Yes, you're right. You're 100% right.
All right, because that's the controversial one. I don't think that there's anybody else out there that you should be ranking ahead of Zurdo. Is there anybody else at 175? Maybe you're going to say Joshua Buatsi should be ranked higher than Zurdo.
Well, we'll wait till the end of this weekend because there's a little domestic going on, just in case you didn't realize.
Oh, I know all about it.
Where I reside.
Yes.
My two compadres from South London are competing against one another for bragging rights because there's no title involved. So the winner of that certainly has a claim to be very highly ranked. I also need to go to East London and say there's a guy over there who could cause some smoke.
You talking about Anthony? You talking about Anthony Yard? Anthony Yard?
About Anthony
I
Yard.
knew you. Once you said East London, I knew. But here's the thing: he gassed hard against an old Kovalev. Has that improved at all? That stamina issue?
I don't think so. Unfortunately for him.
Right. To me, he's got that kind of a body type that if he doesn't get you out of there pretty quick, that quick, twitchy, kind of almost a sprinter's physique.
Yeah, very much.
Right. He's not going to be there for the long haul. It's like putting Dwayne Chambers in there, you know, in a 1,500 meter race. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I look at it, to use a UK sprinter. And you got to go way back these days with the UK sprinters because UK has been making.
I admire your knowledge on the UK sprinters. Let's be honest, that Dwayne Chambers is a guy not a lot of people will know.
Well, indoor specialist at the 60, not too bad at the 100 in the outdoors. Or we could go to Linford Christie if you want. We could go all the way back. But that's kind of how I see Yard's issues. I see him as like a sprinter. You know.
I'd agree with you. I'd agree with you. But what I'm saying is I'm definitely not putting Yard up as like one of the great light heavyweights in the current time. But what I am saying is, if a guy like Zurdo wants to get some heat and wants to be considered, then guys like that might be the guys that, you know, push him up a level.
Well, what about guys like Dominique Bosel, the number one ranked light heavyweight according to the WBA? Were you not impressed?
Man. Come on, guys. We all know what the Alphabet Gang can do for a guy's rankings. Yeah.
Well,
let's not get this twisted. Yeah. WBA rankings are about as useful as a chocolate fireman.
That's a good one.
Is it going too far? Look, you guys don't agree with my top three. Is the top five too far? Top five?
I wouldn't disagree with you to say right now he could be knocking on the door of top five. I wouldn't disagree with you.
Knocking on the door of top five.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you.
Okay.
Knocking on the door of top five. Yeah.
Okay.
But to say he's the number 3 behind Beterbiev and Bivol,
that's a lot.
No.
I'm putting some spec on his name. That's what my
No,
all right. Let's move in. Let's move on to the discussion about Boots, because I put him up there at 3 at welterweight right now, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be totally honest here. That's based almost entirely on the eye test, because to Kenny's point, I mean, Stanionis probably has a better record as a welterweight. You could even argue that Conor Benn's string of opponents is more impressive. than Boots Ennis. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when Boots Ennis was facing guys with upside down records, to be honest with you. But the way he's dispatched to some of these dudes, Tony, to me is special. But, you know, I want to hear your take. Am I tripping as well? Is it all cap, like you were saying in the chat? You know, it's one thing to let those keyboard fingers go crazy.
Okay.
But right now you're going mano a mano with Maestro, so I need you to keep it real. Let's go.
So I'm going to keep it real with you, just to give you the lowdown. You forgetting very, 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 very quickly that a guy named Yordenis Ugas beat a top-ranked welterweight in Manny Pacquiao. Yeah? And all of a sudden, because he has a loss now, you've forgotten my guy. Like, you know, what happened? All of his previous works are suddenly just dismissed. He loses to your number one. So he drops out of the top 5? Really?
I never said he's out of the top 5. I'll push him to 4. You know, I'll push him to 4, maybe. Maybe 5.
Hang on. But what has Boots done?
Maybe 5, you know.
Boots done to jump over Yordenis Ugas?
Look, like I said, it's the eye test.
I'm
going to tell you this right now. I don't think Yordenis Ugas does the Custio Clayton what Boots Ennis did Saturday night. I'm going to be honest with you.
Different style of fighter.
And I also, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here too. I mean, that was a bad stoppage loss to Errol Spence Jr. That was not a good look for Yordenis Ugas against Errol Spence Jr. He gave up most of the rounds, and he was beat up comprehensively in most of those rounds and stopped and sent to the hospital. So, you know, it was a very bad beating. I mean, Danny Garcia put up a better effort against Errol Spence Jr., to be honest, than Yordenis Ugas did. He did, in my estimation. And I'm not knocking Yordenis Ugas here, but if I'm going off of the eye test, and again, most of the credit I'm giving Terrence Crawford is eye test based as well. You know, for him to be number 2, I mean, that's pretty much all eye test, because to your point, Yordenis Ugas has taken on a lot, probably you could argue a lot more top welterweights than Terrence Crawford has. But what did Terrence Crawford do? He dominated the opposition and that was in front of him. So, well, let me ask you this directly. Where do you put Boots Ennis? How do you rate him? And compare him to a guy from so go ahead. Compare him to Connor, a guy from the UK.
I mean, I don't think he's far off top 3, in all honesty. I just think you got to be a little bit careful just to say, let's make him number 3 on the basis of who he's beaten. On the eye test, yes, he probably is number 3 on the eye test, because he's a very good, smart, slick, heavy-handed boxer. But when you look at records, as you yourself has alluded to, you know, Stanionis has got a very impressive record. And now all of a sudden, Conor Benn becomes very relevant in that conversation because of the way he destroyed Van Heerden, an opponent that Errol Spence took 8 rounds to demolish.
And you could argue that he did better against Chris Algieri than Errol Spence Jr. did as well.
He stopped him earlier as well.
There you go. But, you know, the boots question is more difficult than the Zurdo question. I would certainly say it's easier to see how he can be in a top 3, but I personally don't see him right there right now. Very close, very, very close. For people who say he destroys Conor Benn, I'm not saying Conor Benn is the next coming of Christ. I also allude to the fact that he is also still very young. And considering he has next to 0 amateur pedigree, you know, he's not a celebrated amateur like Boots Ennis was. You know, fair play to the kid for doing what he's done so far. But I'm not putting him up there. So I'm not trying to play the UK card in saying, oh, but my guy is better than your guy. But what I am saying is, I don't think Boots is deserving as yet of number 3 ranking, because I still got Ugas there. I still put him up there.
So
go ahead.
We give no love. We're showing all this love to Boots and stuff like that. We have not even mentioned another guy who's right on the same level as Boots in terms of, and I think has fought better opposition than Boots, and that being young Virgil Ortiz Jr. Where's his respect? I'm saying it was sprinkle some on him.
That's a good point, because Virgil's been passing the eye test, but you know what the problem with Virgil is? Why I kind of knocked a couple points off of him, Kenny? He had to back out of his last fight because he couldn't make the weight class.
Yeah,
it was actually because he got sick. It was a medical condition. It had to do with him making weight, but it is a medical condition, so it's not necessarily like he can't make weight either. When it comes to medical conditions, I forgot what he had. It's something wrong with his stomach. I'm not going to hold that against the fighter like David Benavidez missing weight. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't end up getting on the scales because, you know, complications essentially caused by dehydration and malnutrition was my understanding of it. But I can go back and correct the record if I'm wrong about that. But based on his accomplishments, yeah, I got him up there too. But I do have to give the nod to Boots. You know, in that.
Yeah. And I've had feelings. I've always liked Virgil Ortiz, but I've also been told he has issues staying at 147. So I'm not sure if we're going to see him again at 147. If he does, he's definitely a threat to any of the top 5.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of Stanionis, you know, I think Stanionis has put up an impressive run as well. I'm going to, you know, especially the last 3 fights, right? And I'm going to put up his record here as well so that we could kind of look at it. The common opponent with Boots Ennis is obviously Delorme. All right, Delorme went the distance with him. It was a unanimous decision for Stanionis, but he got absolutely blown out by Boots. All right. And then we got Luis Collazo, all right, which was a no decision. We remember what happened there. It looked like he was on the road to beating Collazo, to be fair. And then the Butayev fight, which was impressive. But Butayev as well is a 14-0 fighter, and as you can see, Stanionis is 14-0 as well. So he doesn't exactly have the biggest track record as a pro. But the decider for me, Kenny, in terms of putting Boots ahead of Stanionis is that head-to-head with Delorme. The fight against Delorme with Boots, to me, was much more impressive. And the way Boots has been beating and knocking out these guys has been very impressive to me. But I got to ask Tony something, because I know Tony is a big fan of Terence Crawford, as am I. So my question, though, is, do you rank... If for the people that are making pound for pound lists, and I'm not one of them, but I love the intellectual exercise, all right, of flexing my brain, right, and looking at people's lists and pointing out inaccuracies and contradictions in them. Do you rank Terence Crawford higher than Jermell Charlo, quote unquote, pound for pound?
Easily.
Okay, I want to hear why.
Why. Let me
hear why.
It's not even palpable that you could bring Jermell Charlo's name into the conversation.
He's undisputed.
Because who is Jermell Charlo beaten that ranks anywhere in the range of fights that Terence Crawford is? This is a 3-weight champion, an undisputed champion. Yeah, when you have that, the only guy that can claim anything above that is Canelo.
What about Usyk?
He's 2 weights.
Yeah, but there's a big gap between those weight classes as you head further.
Yeah, but let's be honest, he's fought 3 guys at the upper weight, and let's be honest, the upper weight, the guys he's fought in the upper weight, really aren't that great in terms of boxing pedigree.
Really? I would argue, okay, let's look at Usyk first. Now that you brought it, now I don't remember who brought him up. I think I did, but actually, now that I think about it, I did bring him up. Usyk's run at cruiserweight to me is more impressive than Crawford's run at 140. I would argue that it's also more impressive than Crawford's run at 135. Do you disagree?
I disagree.
Really? So who did Crawford beat at 140 or 135 that is a better win than Morris Bradis?
I feel like this is where things get unfair, though, right? Because
Gamboa,
no, I'm sorry.
at the time, Bradis Prescott. At the time,
Bradis Prescott is a better fighter than Morris Bradis, who was 23-0 when Usyk beat him. Let's not
Morris Bradis really that.
He also beat Murat.
Is really Morris Bradis that impressive a cruiserweight?
Look, I'll go through the names with you. We got Krzysztof Glowacki, who was undefeated at the time, right? We got Michael Hunter, who was undefeated at the time. We had Marco Huck, who was a respected world champion. We got Morris Bradis, and we've got Murat Gassiev, and his last fight was against Tony Bellew. I mean, that is a way better run at 200 than Crawford at 140, I think, and at 135.
Tony Bellew was done. He came out of retirement for the paycheck. Yeah, let's not forget that.
All right, what about Gassiev, 26-0?
Gassiev is the one. If you're going to give me all the names you mentioned, Gassiev is the one name that I'm going to say. That was the fight where I went, that guy is special. I'm not saying I didn't think it was special before that. I'm just saying the Gassiev finished it for me, because then we're starting to say who's the greatest cruiserweight of all time, because it's David Haye or Alexander.
Greatest cruiserweight of all time to me.
Yeah.
Greatest cruiserweight of all time is Usyk, followed by Evander Holyfield, followed by David Haye. Off the top of my head. Off the top of my head.
Okay. I mean, I'm a Evander man, right? The two fights with Dwight Muhammad Kawe, Usyk never once faced a guy like that. Never. I mean, Kawe was just like...
Yeah, but to be fair, once you take away that win, I mean, there's not really much there in terms of Holyfield's run at cruiserweight that you can compare to Usyk's run at cruiserweight. Again, and you can dismiss Tony Bellew.
For courses.
You can dismiss Tony Bellew if you like.
Yeah.
All right. But Murat Gassiev, Bradis, Marco Huck, Michael Hunter, Krzysztof Glowacki, those are all good wins. Those are great wins.
Yeah, but all of those guys don't make one Dwight Muhammad Kawe. All of them.
Okay, so let's get back to it though with Crawford, right?
Okay.
So it sounds to me like you're making Crawford's case based not really on his welterweight run, but on his run at 140 and the fact that he also held a title at 135.
I have to mention the run of KOs at the welterweight division, because if you don't mention the fact that not only has he beat everyone at welterweight, he stopped everyone at welterweight. You can't discount that.
He didn't stop everyone at welterweight. He hasn't fought Errol Spence Jr. yet.
No, but of the fighters that he's faced at welterweight, they've all been stopped. And the guy has,
because he's been fighting on the top ranked plantation, which we've talked about many times.
You like to talk about Boots Ennis and his boxing IQ.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Boots Ennis' IQ pales into insignificance when you compare him to the likes of Terence Crawford, because Crawford's boxing IQ is fundamentally better than any fighter I've seen on the planet for a very long time.
Okay, so just for those that are keeping track right now, right? I've got Usyk ahead of Crawford in terms of accomplishment, because I'm rating Usyk's run at 200 more than I'm rating Crawford's run at 140. And honestly, to me, the Joshua win is a bigger win than any of Crawford's win at either 147 or 135. That's just me. So I got Usyk ahead of Crawford, right? Now, in terms of Jermell Charlo, all right, and the floor is going to be yours back in a second, Tony. Jermell Charlo has beaten everyone he's gotten into the ring with, and he's a 4-belt undisputed champion at 154. His run at 154 to me is better than Crawford's undisputed run at 140, which, by the way, was a while ago. Okay, so I'm also rating his run at 154 ahead of Crawford's run at 147. Do you agree or disagree? Who's got
I disagree.
Okay,
I disagree.
Go for it.
So let's go. Let's be honest with his record. He lost the first fight to Castaño in my eyes. I know some people think he won that fight.
I felt the same way. I felt he also lost the first fight.
So that means he has that loss. He lost to Tony Harrison. That's 2 losses.
He avenged both of those losses.
He avenged both losses, and he avenged them very well.
Yeah, by knockout. You couldn't ask him to do more.
Exactly. I rate the guy highly. However, his record does not tell me he can be ranked above a Terence Crawford because he's cleaned up a division with Jason Rosario, Jorge Cota, Austin Trout, Erickson Lubin. You know,
are any of those names? Are any of those names, Tony? Like weaker?
Lubin was 18-0.
Okay.
Yeah, 18-0 when he faced Jermell Charlo. Been knocked out twice since.
Yeah. I mean, and what has Amir Khan done since he got knocked out by Crawford? I mean, Crawford's run at welterweight again has also been, you know, I would just say not against the stiffest opposition. The guys that you just named, I would rank them. I wouldn't rank them below Crawford's opposition at 147 if I'm keeping it real. I mean, if I don't, do you rank Jeff Horn higher than you rank Brian Castaño?
No, definitely.
What about the Kell Brook at the stage that Crawford got him at?
No.
Right? I'm not even, I'll just go through it. Amir Khan?
No.
No, right? Jose Benavidez Jr.
Yes. I'd give
Benavidez Jr. with the gunshot wound to the leg, who couldn't.
Yeah. I did think that was a potential banana skin, but he dealt with him properly.
All right, and obviously I'm gonna ask you about the Mean Machine. Was he a better opponent than Brian Castaño?
Is a bad mama jammer.
Right, but better than Brian Castaño.
You know that kind of.
But better than Brian Castaño.
I don't think you're giving enough credit to the Mean Machine.
I'm just saying he wasn't an undefeated world champ. 2-time world champ, actually, like Brian Castaño.
I mean, you know, look, I rank Castaño very highly, especially after the first fight. I don't think Mean Machine is comparable in terms of quality of opposition.
Yes.
Castaño. But Errol Spence didn't, Terence Crawford didn't lose to Mean Machine.
He got knocked down by Mean Machine, though.
Hang on, wait. He didn't lose.
He didn't lose.
Right.
And officially on the
who lost to Castaño?
Well, not officially.
No, officially. He lost. I'm saying it now.
No, he didn't. That's it. With all due respect, I agree that I thought Castaño won the first fight, but it wasn't official. All right, so let's move off Mean Machine. Right? A 3-loss Crawford versus an undefeated Brian Castaño. Who do you give the nod to in terms of difficulty of opposition?
Sorry, say that again, because
a 3-loss. Sorry, Sean Porter.
I was gonna say.
Sorry, I meant Sean Porter. A 3-loss Sean Porter.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus an undefeated Castaño, who, by the way, you felt won the penultimate fight, right?
Yeah.
The fight. So rate them in terms of composition.
This is the fighter that brings it up now because
Yeah.
Sean Porter
3-loss Sean Porter
is still, despite 3 losses, one of the best welterweights in the division when Terence fights him.
When Terence fought,
Let me give you the Sean Porter my version of the Sean Porter.
Go for it.
Sean Porter did not lose to Kell Brook. Me personally, I thought.
Did he lose? Did he lose to Keith Thurman?
He lost to Keith Thurman.
Did he get hurt? Hold up, I'm asking a question. Did he get hurt by Adrian Bronner? Did he lose? Did he lose to Keith Thurman? You already answered that. Did he lose to Errol Spence Jr.? The answer to all those questions is yes.
Yeah, he lost.
He had a lot of miles on that clock going into that Terrence Crawford fight. He did. If we're gonna be fair, he did. No?
Okay, I'm gonna give you that.
All right, so I just don't understand where, like, if we're talking about where you are right now in the sport, I'm basing it on what you're doing in your weight class. What you're doing in your weight class.
Let me break it down again. Something here that needs to be mentioned, and I'm glad to be given the platform to say this. In order to achieve greatness, one has to come out of one's comfort zone. Yeah, which is why heavyweights don't make all-time greats in the same way other fighters do. Manny Pacquiao is the obviously poster boy for all-time great because he did it in 8 weight classes. Yeah, Floyd is an ATG because he did it in 7 weight classes.
Yeah, but I mean that's just not something heavyweights can do.
Right, I appreciate that.
I mean, they're naturally big.
That's unfortunate for them. Yeah, but let's be honest. Jermell Charlo has fought in 1. And for that reason alone, he doesn't come into the top 5 all pound for pound fighters list. Yeah?
So
because let's be honest.
This is why I'm happy to have you on, because
let me break this down. Terence Crawford could have stayed at lightweight, yeah, and just waited for people to keep coming like Jermell Charlo and just keep knocking him over.
He was struggling to stay at 135, Tony.
Okay.
Come on.
Then he goes up to 140.
He was struggling to stay at 140.
And just kept knocking him over and knocking him over and knocking him over like Jermell Charlo. But he said, no, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to go up again. And I'm going to knock him over and knock him over and knock. And he's going, I'm waiting for this one kid. When I'm done with him, I'm going up again.
Or maybe Charlo was just fighting in his own weight class and wasn't boiling himself down like Terence Crawford was to make 135 and 140. Because Terence Crawford said he was struggling to make those weight classes and needed to move up to 147.
Okay. So when you talk about pound for pound best fighter at this moment in time,
yes,
you have to bear in mind a guy who's fighting in multiple weight divisions, who's knocking over people in multiple weight divisions like Manny Pacquiao used to do, yeah? Because that's the comparable record that, to me, I'm looking at a guy who's moving up, and not only is he just not beating people, he's knocking them over. To me right now, Naoya Inoue is a better pound-for-pound fighter than Jermell Charlo because he's a 3-weight world
okay, so I got it. I understand it now. Basically, I'm glad you're on, because you're explaining to me the methodology of the person that ranks Terence Crawford so high. Yeah. Because you are ranking weight jumping as the most important thing. You're making that.
It's not the most important thing, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is you had to be a world champion.
Right, I understand that, but here's the thing. Right. So if you're basing it on weight jumping and going through the weight classes, then I can kind of see your argument. But my methodology, based on accomplishment, right? That's secondary to what you're doing in your current weight class, right? And to me, and this is just my methodology here, if someone is clearly the best in their weight class because they hold all 4 belts in the 4-belt era, right? That trumps weight class jumping and not being the number one guy in your division? Because until he fights Errol Spence,
hang on.
he fights Errol Spence, he's not the number one guy.
But hang on, the guy you're talking about,
Yes,
disparagingly.
I'm not disparagingly. I'm giving him credit
because you're diminishing his accomplishments by saying he hasn't got 4 belts. But hang on, he had 4 belts.
Had.
So he cleaned up a whole division.
Usyk had 4 belts, but you're not ranking Usyk.
Usyk is higher than
Usyk had 4 belts, Tony.
You only asked me to rank Usyk with Crawford. You
right, but here's the thing: but you're ranking Usyk below Crawford. Yes or no?
Of course.
Okay, but in my view, his run at 200 pounds destroys, obliterates, lays waste to Crawford's run at 140, where he unified with Ndongo. I'm sorry, but Bradis, right?
Gassiev, etc.
Gassiev, all of those dudes. I would even say Tony Bellew was a bigger win than Ndongo. I'm sorry, he was.
I get it.
Right? So if we're ranking it on the fact that you got to be number one in your division to be in this discussion at the very top, I got to give it to Jermell Charlo. I do. I got to give it to Usyk.
No.
I do.
No. Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Understand what I'm saying?
I understand your rationale. However, your rationale to me
is flawed.
Because you're not basing your rationale on, did the guy take a risk and move up a division and go for everything?
Hold up. Was it a risk? Was it really that big of a risk? Hold up. Tony, let me ask you the question. You don't know the question. You don't know the question yet.
Go ahead.
Was it that much of a risk to move up in weight when you were already struggling to make 140 and take on Jeff Horn to win a world title? Was that the biggest risk?
Every time you move up a weight, you're taking a risk. Every time you go up a weight, you're taking a risk. You're walking in the
Was it a bigger risk? Okay, I got it. I got it. So was it a bigger risk or a smaller risk than when AJ took on Usyk at Tottenham?
Smaller risk.
Well, then why are you ranking it like it's a bigger risk?
But he cleaned up the division.
But you got Usyk. He has not cleaned up the welterweight division.
Okay, no, but hang on. He had to go from lightweight to light welter.
Hold up, Tony. This is what we're doing. We got to agree to the same facts, okay? These are the facts. These are the facts.
Go ahead.
They both cleaned out a division.
Right.
Whose cleaning out of that division was more impressive? Usyk or Crawford? On the one hand, we've got Ndongo. On the other hand, we've got Brady.
No, because now
Come on.
Put it like that.
Why can't I put it like that?
No, I tell you why you can't put it like that. Because what you're doing is you're just bookending his reign at light welterweight with Ndongo, and saying, well, Ndongo
one guy unified with Ndongo, the other guy won the World Boxing Super
what about
Series.
All the other guys that he beat in the division?
What other guys? Victor Postal. That was about it. I'm not ranking Victor Postal. That's it. And Victor Postal, again, does not trump Gasayev, Glaunaki, any of the guys, Bradis. He just doesn't. But let's just say that they're even, just for argument's sake, right? Usyk cleaning out at 200 and Crawford cleaning out at 140, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they moved up in weight, respectively to heavyweight and welterweight, right? You just agreed that the AJ win is a bigger win than anything Crawford's done at 147, including winning the title against Jeff Horn, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then how do you have Crawford higher?
Because
you like him more. Just
no.
say
No.
You like him more.
Yeah, I have to like him more.
You like him more. Just say it.
But I also have to go with, let's talk about the way he operates in the ring. because that's ultimately what pound for pound has to be judged
Okay,
on.
give me 1 second. I'm going to get to the super chat. Hold on. All right, I got a big up slide tendencies with the super chat. Thank you so much. I just interrupted Tony. He's going to get back to it in a moment. Congrats to Charlo for going undisputed. I think he should be on the pound for pound list, but not in the top 5. 1 weight class and no super fights. Come on now. Did you pay him to say that?
The people know, my brother.
Let me find out you just threw slide tendencies at Cash App and told him to drop a super chat real quick. All right, so look, this is the thing, right? I think when it comes to pound for pound, everyone's got their different criteria, right? There's like the spectacle of, oh, this guy looks so amazing to me when I'm watching him live. There's he moved up in weight, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the actual accomplishment in terms of where they are right now in their weight class. See, the thing is, if this was like the rules of officiating in boxing where you got different criteria, my criteria, the pinnacle, is your ranking right now in your division. That's the pinnacle, especially if you're a world champ in that division.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm using as number 1, right? And because of that, I'm going to be honest with you. I do rank Usyk higher, and I think an argument can be made for ranking Charlo, although I understand the 2-loss argument against Harrison and not 2-loss, but loss in a draw argument you were making. Go, Tony.
Okay. So I just want to talk about what a guy's performance looks like in the ring, because that also has to play a huge part in where you rank a guy pound for pound. And I'm gonna break it down like this for you. Lots of people will classify Muhammad Ali as the greatest of all time. Look at his body of work. And there's loads of reasons why you can go, oh, but he didn't beat this guy and he didn't beat that guy and he lost to that guy and he got dropped by that guy. But who's going to argue that guy, the greatest of all time in my books, the great Muhammad Ali, the late great Muhammad Ali, formerly Cassius Clay, was not science in the boxing ring? The footwork, the speed of hands, the jab, the combinations, the ability to go in with killers like George Foreman, Ernie Shavers, Joe Frazier, Kenny Norton, over and over and over and over again.
Sonny listed.
Yeah. Which is why when you're talking about introducing, when people talk to me and say, oh, let's make Mike Tyson top heavyweight, you're like, come on, guys. He hasn't got that resume, my brother.
No, he doesn't.
Every time he came across a real killer, he got soundly defeated.
Yes, he did. And you cannot say the same thing about Crawford, to your point. Crawford's undefeated. Crawford has dominated all of his opponents.
But this is why I'm trying to make the analogy with Ali.
Right.
Eye test. When you look at the sweet science, that's ultimately what this game is about, my brother. We watch fights every weekend and we marvel at the capabilities of fighters. You yourself are enamored by the grace and the brilliance of Boots Ennis.
Yeah, so he passes your eye test, right?
Top 3.
Does he pass your eye test?
He's a lovely boxer. He's a beautiful boxer. Yeah? I don't know where you rate Lomachenko. In my eyes, he's a beautiful boxer.
Well, my thing with Lomachenko being on all of these people's lists, which to me, again, is an accomplishment list, I don't see how you can be on that list when you're not even a world champion in your own division. Like, how are you higher than...
I totally agree.
How are you higher than world champions that are in their own division and you're not even a world titleist in your own division?
Right. So this is my point. So let's wrap this up now. You got guys like Lomachenko, beautiful boxers, stylists, who bring something unique to the game. Back in the day, a guy named Nassim Hamed, was a beautiful stylist of a boxer with a concussive right uppercut. But when he came to the real acid test, he got found wanting, brother.
Kevin Kelly at the Garden.
No.
Kevin
Marco
Kelly.
Antonio
Kevin
Barrera.
Kelly at the Garden. Let people know what happened with Kevin Kelly at the Garden. That was an all-time classic, Tony. Don't deny it. Come on now.
Classic. And I got to be honest with you, Kevin Kelly was my boy at the time. I loved that guy.
Right?
I loved that guy. And you know what? Even although Hamed was the Brit, I was on Kevin's side that night. I loved that guy.
Kevin Kelly was a good fighter. So, look, one of these days I'm going to put together my accomplishments list, right? But my list right now, at the top of that list, I'm be honest, it's Usyk. All of the undisputed champions, I'm including Josh Taylor in that. His run at cruiserweight was very impressive. All right.
Yeah.
And with all due respect to Terrence Crawford at 140, right? I think that Jermell Charlo should get his credit. And I think that for Terrence Crawford to be at the top of any one of these lists, he should face off against the other best welterweight in the division, which is Errol Spence Jr., who's got all of the belts that he doesn't hold. So, I mean, that's my main argument. I think it's fair. All right. You've already spoken about Zurdo, I think. I think Zurdo needs to get a little bit more respect put on his name. He's calling out anybody. It's not his fault that people don't really seem to want to fight him, right? But Tony, I want to let everybody know where they can find you. You got to check out The Rundown, all right?
The breakdown.
My fault, The Breakdown.
The breakdown.
All right, with Tony and with my brother Base the Kid. Let people know when that drops and where they can find it.
So that drops tomorrow evening, Tuesday. That's 8 p.m. UK time. That's what, about 3 p.m. Eastern, I think. So that's on a channel called the Undisputed Podcast.
Undefeated Podcast. I always make that mistake myself. Undefeated Podcast.
So that's the channel name. The Undisputed Podcast is the channel name. The show is called The Breakdown with myself and Base the Kid. Tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. UK time.
There you go. And can you give us a quick, 30-second breakdown of the big light heavyweight fight taking place Saturday?
So this weekend on Saturday, the 21st, we have here in London at the big O2 Centre. I will be there with my brethren from the Undefeated Podcast to see Josh Buatsi, the business, against Spider Craig Richards, who's come off a defeat to Dimitri Bivol, which was a very good fight for him. Elevated him in the weight category with a very good performance. And the Olympian bronze medalist Joshua Buatsi, who is now fighting out of the United States. He's being trained by Virgil Hunter. This promises to be an absolutely amazing fight. The two guys are former friends and sparring partners, as they're both from about literally 3 miles apart here in South London, and it should be a great battle royale.
There you go. Do you think Richards has a good shot in this one?
Absolutely, he has a great shot. I'm very much sitting on the fence on this one until possibly Friday after the weigh-in to see how that goes. But I have love for both those brothers. They're guys that I've been out with, and I love them both. I think they're doing great things in the sport, and the fact that they're coming together to fight one another is a great thing, because we love it when boxing puts together top ranked fighters and they fight each other.
Yeah, well, we'll see how Buatsi does under the continued stewardship of Virgil Hunter. I mean, it didn't go that well for Tony Yoka last week in Paris last Saturday.
Badly.
They had Martin Bacoli looking like a heavyweight contender up there in Paris.
For sure.
He kind of looked the way that you kind of wanted Dillian White to face Fury, a little more, letting his hands go a little bit more. And, I know it was a different level.
Let's be honest, the Yoka performance was dismal. It was abysmal. I mean, I looked at that fight, I was like, damn, I could have danced around Bacoli. I mean, his footwork is atrocious.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, he wasn't even cutting off the ring, but he always seemed to be able to find Yoka.
It's true.
Right?
It's
he was plotting forward.
Yoka's so gifted as an athlete. How could you not just dance your way around this guy? It baffled the hell out of me. I mean, Virgil Hunter is getting a beat down right now for that performance because it was atrocious by Yoka.
100%. Tony, hold on real quick. I'm just going to end things. I want to thank everybody. Bear with me over here. I want to thank you for coming on mano a mano, going mano a mano with me, not just with the warrior keyboard, but coming on and defending your thoughts, appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in. And yes, Nando, please let everybody know that they got to jab the like. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again soon. That's it for this week's Mano a Mano. The breakdown is tomorrow night. Make sure you check that out. Take care.
Say, all right. I hear you, B.